Hello dear friends. Today we will get acquainted with the memoirs of a junior non-commissioned officer who served in the 13th Company of the 1st Regiment of the 3rd SS Panzer Division, Totenkopf. The memoirs of German soldiers and officers are interesting from a historical point of view. With their help you can find out how the German army was organized, due to which they received such qualified officers and much more. Don't forget to rate the video and leave your opinion in the comments. Well, let's get started. At the end of 1941, a poster appeared in our Hitler Youth. Young men born in 1923 are examined by the Waffen-SS Commission. I talked to my friend and of course we decided to go there and see how healthy we are. In the morning about 200 people gathered there, in the afternoon 27 remained. The selection was very strict. At the beginning of 1942, I received documents in the mail, an invitation to the Waffen-SS. I signed them and sent them back. On August 15, 1942, I arrived in Warsaw, in the Infantry Reserve and Training Battalion of the Waffen-SS. We arrived in Warsaw. We thought to see the city on the way to the barracks, but 4 officers met us on the platform. Nothing happened with a walk around the city. We lived in the former barracks of the Polish army, 12 people in one room. The food was very scarce. The only time we were on leave, except for one comrade from Bavaria, he shot better than anyone and he was released on leave after each shooting exercise. We asked him why you shoot so well. He said that they, in the Bavarian forest, are all poachers. The training was hard, night marches of 25 kilometers and so on. On October 15, 1942, we were lined up and loaded into transport, and we headed to our division. We drove through Belgium. We rode in a freight car. Apples were brought there before us. We ate these apples, drank water from the locomotive, and arrived not where we were being taken, but to Poitiers, in quarantine. Everyone had dysentery. It was a former French artillery barracks. Nothing was organized, there was no supply, we literally hung in the air. A week later we went on, and I arrived in Lyon, in the 13th Company. There I was trained on a light 75mm infantry gun, as well as on a 150mm heavy infantry gun. All this was good, but the guns were transported not by tractors, but by us. It was especially good with 150mm guns. This was done intentionally. We became stronger from this. When I first went to the toilet in the French barracks I was shocked. There was a hole in the floor and nothing else. This was my first exposure to French system toilets. We celebrated Christmas in a French bar. They put a Christmas tree there. There was an open balcony, tables for 3 people, each table had sweets, chocolate and a jug of alcohol. I don't remember how I ended up in the barracks after that, but after that we were locked up in the barracks, and we celebrated the New Year in the barracks under arrest. Then there was a rumor that we were being sent to Africa. We, Totenkopf, the Leibstandard, Das Reich and the Wehrmacht Division Großdeutschland will advance on Alexandria. But our cars were painted white and transport came to Russia. The target was Stalingrad. I rode on the last open platform. There was a gun, I guarded it. It was February, it was cold, I was riding on an open platform, our kitchen was in the first car. I managed to get there the only time on the whole trip. There were Red Cross field kitchens at the stations, but there was usually no food there. In Rzeszów, this is the border station between the General Government, Poland, and Russia. Just 3 paths from me was a field kitchen with noodle soup. A man passed by my platform. I asked him how long we were leaving. He said that in 5 to 10 minutes. I ran to the field kitchen for food. An ambulance train passed between the kitchen and our echelon, and when it passed, my echelon had already left. I was left half-dressed, without a belt and with a bowl of noodles. Imagine how I felt. I went to the station, where they told me that in half an hour a train with tanks of gasoline was coming. It does not stop, I have to jump on the tank on the go. Then I rode in a freight train, then on a platform with anti-aircraft guns, then in a passenger train, then I caught up with one echelon of our division. They told me where my 13th company was, then I found my company in one village. I reported to the company commander that I had returned. He sent me to the foreman scolded me terribly, told me everything he had to tell me. In any case, I returned to my company and vowed to myself not to move more than 3 meters from it. It was near Poltava. From there we advanced on Kharkov, we took Kharkov, and from there we advanced on Belgorod. We were stopped there. We did not understand why we stopped, we were advancing so well. We did not stay there for long, we were taken to the rear, and I went on vacation. I went home. When I returned to the unit, I was sent to study at the school for non-commissioned officers. After leaving school, I again received leave, and on the 22nd of October, 1943, I was engaged. After that, I returned to the company as a gun commander. There I participated in a sad chapter, in the retreat to Krivoy Rog, then further and further. During the retreat, my cannon collided on the road with an assault gun commanded by a Knight of the Knight's Cross. And my cannon and his assault gun became useless, we had to blow them up. By that moment, there was practically nothing left of my company, only the company commander and literally 2 or 3 more people remained. The company commander could not take us all with him, he took our driver, and we, there were 3 of us, told us to go to the city of Debossery and look for him there. 90 kilometers to Debossery we walked through the frost without any food. There they gathered a marching company to the front, but we did not want to go there, we began to look for where we could spend the night. We found a room on the first floor, right on the main street, which was incredible. There we made a steam room out of a 200-liter gasoline barrel and fried our clothes on the barrel of a machine gun. We were totally lice. One morning we left the house, and right in front of our house was a truck with the tactical signs of our 13th company. We waited for the driver to return, but then a new difficulty arose. The driver said that cars were being searched on the bridge across the Dniester, and soldiers were forbidden to go to the rear without permission. We hid in the back of a truck under what was lying there, they did not find us, and we ended up in our company again. The company was stationed in one village. The next day we went to Chisinau. In Chisinau, we settled in the barracks, went to a performance at the theater, and the next day I was sent to Warsaw, to the courses of candidate officers. There was, as usual, marching, tactics and the study of new weapons. Then I was sent to the cadet school in Prague, that was in July 1944. In October 1944, I was unexpectedly summoned to the headquarters, and they said that I was immediately sent to Breslau, where 2 companies were formed in the infantry training and reserve battalion. I went by train to Breslau. The personnel of 2 companies were already there, but there were no guns yet. Then they said that we would not get guns at all, and therefore we, artillerymen, were sent on vacation. In the meantime, my fiancée was drafted into the army, into the navy, as an assistant to the headquarters, but not at sea, but in St. Blasian, this is in the Black Forest. There was a well-known resort and pulmonary sanatorium, and the headquarters of the Kriegsmarine was located there. She worked there. I couldn't decide where I should go, to Hildesheim to my parents or to the bride in St. Blasian. I drove to Erfurt, an air raid alert was announced there, we jumped out of the train, hid in the cracks and came under American bombing. After the bombing, no trains ran in Erfurt, but after a while they announced that there was a train to Mainz, so I went to the bride. I drove to Ludwigshafen, from there on to Freiburg im Breisgau, spent the night there, and the next morning I went to Seebruch. The railway ended there, it was 50 kilometers to St. Blasian, there were no buses, and I walked 50 kilometers. It was cold. In St. Blasian I was very lucky, I found a room in a hotel and was put on allowance in the Kriegsmarine. I returned from vacation a day later, but when I returned to the company, the foreman told me that of those who were released on vacation, I returned first. My fiancée wanted me to marry her, but I said I didn't want to make her a widow too soon. They gave me 30 cadets, ski rangers, to subordinate me. They molested young girls in the kitchen, and I drove them through the snowdrifts for half the night. After that they left the girls alone. Then, as you probably know, the Russians broke through to the bridge at the station. An alert of the highest degree of danger was declared. The entire reserve battalion was divided into companies, which were to occupy certain sectors of the defense. My company was on the other side of the Oder. There was no bridge there was a ferry. There were a huge number of refugees, horse-drawn carts, cattle, old people, women and children. We have received orders to build our defensive position. At first we were supposed to build a defensive position on the dam on the Oder, but the dam was 18 meters away from the river and bushes and trees grew between it and the Oder. Then we built a position right on the banks of the Oder. I do not remember the name of our company commander at that moment. He was quickly replaced, and the company was commanded by Otto Lumnius. In our area of defense there was a bunker built according to all the rules, with a MG machine gun. The bunker was built to protect the bend in the Oder. To our right, up the Oder, there was a strip, about 120 meters, absolutely flat, on which a single tree grew. Behind it was the defense sector of the Waffen-SS company, and to our left, where the ferry was the Wehrmacht. At night, we sent reconnaissance to the next village. There were already Russians there. We did not wait for them for a long time. In a couple of days they were already in front of us, but without heavy weapons. They tried to cross the Oder in 3 boats where there was a flat strip. We destroyed them, none of them survived. In addition, the water in the Oder was icy. Whoever fell into it could not swim out. One morning we lost contact with a neighboring company on the left flank. We received orders to retreat in the direction of Breslau. On our side, near the ferry, there was a house where a woman lived with her 3 daughters. When we retreated, we asked her to go with us to Breslau, but they remained in the house. I still wonder what happened to them afterwards. In any case, we retreated and we had a sudden counterattack on the Russians. They were completely confused, they absolutely did not count on it, they had huge losses. After that, our company was a fortress reserve. The reserve of the fortress meant that we always went into close combat, either counterattacked the Russians who had broken through, or went on reconnaissance, or stabilized the defense sector, because there were so many Volkssturm units in Breslau. Most often we fought near the Gondau airport. The Russians entered there, because the unit under the command of Speckmann simply fled from there. We counterattacked the Russians at night, but we could not liberate the entire area, because the Russians had pulled a lot of forces there. In any case, we held this part of the city for quite a long time. There was an airport, transport planes landed there all the time, brought ammunition and took out the wounded. Then we covered Frankfurt Street. It's a very long street. At the crossroads there was a railway embankment. The Volkssturm was defending there, and the Russians captured the first 3 houses behind the railway embankment. I, with 10 soldiers, received an order to drive the Russians out of there. We did this, losing 1 man, but we captured a Russian anti-tank gun. Then we received an order to clear the defensive line. It was a huge complex of bunkers, 2 floors, concrete walls, casemates and galleries, covered with trees and bushes. It was defended by part of the Wehrmacht. The Russians unexpectedly attacked them and captured the entire complex, except for the largest bunker, which was still defended by this part of the Wehrmacht. We were ordered to release them, to break through the Russians, of whom there were about 60 people from the penal unit. We went there armed to the teeth, even with Panzerfausts. We spread out along the front and went on the attack, throwing hand grenades and firing from Panzerfausts. The Russians opened heavy fire on us. Twice we retreated to a large bunker and called our artillery fire. We went on the last attack and the Russians laid down their arms. From us 27 remained. Then we continued to fight in much the same way. In Breslau there were large food depots for the front and many rear units. They all remained in Breslau when it was surrounded, and we received reinforcements from them, but some of them did not even know how to shoot. One of our replenishment said, "Oh my God, I'm in the Waffen-SS now, I can write a will." Why this was so I do not know, but in any case, it is known that Waffen-SS units were always used where the air was saturated with iron. Our division never stood in one place, we were constantly moved along the front. On March 30th, I was wounded by a shrapnel in the thigh. I was immediately operated on in the infirmary in the bunker. Without anesthesia, they made 2 incisions. One day after the operation, I lay at the location of our company, in the kitchen, where young girls worked for us. There was no one else, and the next day I again went into battle. On April 21st, I received a through wound in the lung. I was again brought to the infirmary, and they said that they were shooting at them, and that I should lie down somewhere else. I went to the sugar barn and lay there. I was lucky. For 3 days I was bleeding all the time, and with it all the dirt from the wound came out. They told me this later. Then they brought me to another hospital, in the basement of the gymnasium. Then there was a rumor that on the 3rd of May we were breaking through from Breslau. Someone from our company came to me every day, and I told them to take me with them. They did it, the breakthrough failed, and the next day I had a mild stroke. Our company occupied a position not far from the bridge. In the cellars, there was a monastery nearby. I was lying in the monastery. They took care of me there. On May 6th, Breslau capitulated. Again there was a rumor that if the company did not surrender in an organized manner, led by the company commander, then we would all be shot. At midnight, we lined up, the girls who were in our company, in our uniform, put in the center of the column, and went. For 3 days we were taken along the roads around Breslau. Then we came to the camp, Breslau, 5 Ponds. The first thing we didn't like there were the Austrians. They suddenly declared themselves independent, hung a red-white-red flag, did not live in barracks with us, but built a tent for themselves, and did not talk to us. From there, 1,000 people were transferred to the camp in Breslau-Hunsweg, where I was examined. I received the 4th working group. From Breslau-Hunsweg 1,200 people were sent to work in Dresden, but only in the 3rd working group. I had a 4th, and I remained in the camp. One morning we were taken out of the camp under heavy guard and loaded into Russian wagons, not like ours. We arrived in Belgorod, I was already there, to a camp in which there were 1,500 people. There we were again, for the umpteenth time, searched, and again a lot was taken away. Now about the supply. Can you imagine? In the autumn they brought cabbage on trucks. Our masons built stone fences, cisterns, cut cabbage and fermented it. From the remains of cabbage, soup was cooked for another 2 weeks. It stank very much. Frosts came very early. We lived in a dilapidated former hospital, slept without blankets on planks. Icicles grew from the ceiling from our breathing. There was no heating or stove. Only much later did we build the stove ourselves. Every morning we were counted, always a few people were missing, every night someone died. In December 1945 we did not have the opportunity to bury a single person. The corpses were piled up like firewood. Only in the spring they were buried. We worked at the station, at the brick factory. The guards were very good, it was hard for them too. I also worked on a collective farm. Then we were transferred to Kursk, and from there to Chistiakovo, to a coal mine. There I was asked if I would like to work in a cultural group and I agreed. We did our best, wrote and played sketches. We, from the cultural group, had to maintain good relations with the commissioner. One day he came to me and said, "USS soldiers are being transferred to a security camp. This is the best camp in the whole area." I thought he was kidding me. We came to this camp, and, firstly, we did not understand that this was a camp. It looked like a normal residential area. There were curtains hanging on the windows and there were flower pots. There we were received by the German commandant of the camp. He asked, "Which division?" "Totenkopf. The 3rd block, report there to the foreman." We were with us again, in the SS. It was the best camp in all my more than 4 years in Russian camps. We worked in the mine. The mine was 150 meters from the camp. After our shift in the mine, the Russian shift stepped in. We had no guards. We participated in all socialist competitions, both on the day of the October Revolution, and on the birthday of Stalin, and the best miner. We won them all. We had a wonderful political officer. He brought us 30 women from the internment camp. We had a dance band. We had a dance party, but I was not on it. There was my shift, damn it. And now the sensation. We received a salary, the same as the Russians. I repeat, we received as much as the Russians. And even more, because we worked much harder than they did. And the money came to our account. But we could not withdraw all the money. We had to transfer 456 rubles from our accounts for expenses on us in the camp. In July 1948, our political officer, who did not conduct a single political lesson with us, because he immediately said that we don't care about a light bulb, he also said that by the end of this year there would not be a single one left in Russia, one German prisoner of war. We said, well, okay, and began to wait. August passed, September passed, October came, we were lined up and sorted into different camps. This was the case in all the camps in our area. At that moment, we were really afraid that we would all be shot, because he said that until the end of 1948, not a single German prisoner of war would remain in Russia. We did not work in this camp, but I had money from the last camp in my account. I bought food, treated my comrades. We had a great Christmas. Then I was transferred to another camp. I asked to work in the mine again. Then I was transferred to another camp, and there we again worked in the mine. It was bad there. The camp was far away. The conditions were bad. There were no changing rooms. There were deaths at work, because labor safety was bad. Then this camp was liquidated, and I ended up in Dnipropetrovsk. There was a giant automobile plant, workshops, machine tools from Germany. Materials were handled very wastefully there. If concrete was brought a couple of minutes before the end of the working day, then it was simply left to lie until tomorrow, and it dried up. Then they broke it with crowbars and threw it away. Ready. We loaded bricks. Everyone took 4 bricks, 2 under the arm, and one took only 2. The Russians asked, "What is it? Why do you take only 2 bricks, and all the rest take 4? He said that everyone else is lazy. They are too lazy to walk twice. On December 16, 1949, we were sleeping in a large barracks. Suddenly there was a whistle and a command to pack our things. They said that we were going home. They read out the list. My name was also there. I was not particularly happy, because I was afraid that something else would change. With the rest of my money, I bought 2 large wooden suitcases, 3,000 cigarettes, vodka, black tea, and so on in the carpenter's shop. We marched on foot through Dnipropetrovsk. The Russian commandant of the camp knew the German soldiers' songs well and ordered us to sing. All the way to the train station in Dnipropetrovsk, we sang one song after another, and "We are flying over England," and "Our tanks are moving forward through Africa," and so on. The Russian camp commandant enjoyed it. The wagons were, of course, freight cars, but they had a stove. We got enough food, the doors were not locked, and we set off. It was winter, but it was warm in the cars. We were always given firewood. We arrived in Brest-Litovsk. There we were put on a siding, and there were already 3 trains with former German soldiers. There we were searched again. I had a double-bottomed flask that I stole from the Russians. There I had a list of the names of 21 comrades, about whom I knew how they died, but everything worked out. We were kept in Brest-Litovsk for 3 days, and we went to Frankfurt on the Oder. At the freight station in Frankfurt/Oder, a little German boy came up to our train with a bag and asked us for bread. We still had enough food. We took him into our car and fed him. He said that he would sing us a song for this, and sang, "When in Russia the blood-red sun sinks in the mud." We all cried. The railroad employees at the station asked us for cigarettes. Okay. We were brought to yet another camp. We were once again cleaned of lice. We were given clean linen, Russian, and 50 Eastern marks each, which we, of course, immediately drank away. Why do we need them in West Germany? Each of us also received a packet from West Germany. We were put on a passenger train, maybe even an express train, but the road was single track, and we had to wait for every oncoming train. Once again, we stopped right at some completely destroyed station. People approached our train and asked for bread. We drove on to Marienbahn. There was an end. In the morning we crossed the border of West Germany. There were Russians, there was a neutral zone, and we crossed the border. We were received, everyone was there, politicians, a Catholic priest, a